looking at the specific sectors, right? The interstate renewable energy system represents the overhaul of the our energy production and transportation system, and that represents 28% of our emissions, right? So it's a big chunk. It's over a quarter, but and this is all that the Democrats bills deal with. So you're still leaving over 70% of emissions out there. That's not a path to a real solution. So 20%, 8% of emissions. The Ecosocialist Green New Deal would create about 5 million jobs in this sector, and cost about $510 billion over 10 years. And renewable electricity, it's got to be the foundation of any sustainable economic system. So it would be a national plan to build an economy based on renewable electricity. It would be composed of several components. There would be a national interstate component, probably mostly based on wind, interconnected with a rebuilt national smart grid system. Solar panels and geothermal could be added to it, although the Ecosocialist Green New Deal really focuses on wind for this component. On the other end of the spectrum is where solar and geothermal come in, in our plan. And that means, we could plan for buildings, and basically all consumer electricity use could be covered by small scale geothermal and by solar panels. So that would, kind of provide the bulk of building level use, and that interstate, wind network would be there for backup. So this has got a national wind farm network, consumer level solar and geothermal, a national smart grid and energy storage, which could look into things like passive. One of the things when we talk about water, we often think about it as the thing we drink, but it's also used for the production of electricity through hydro, and water can also be a very good method to have kind of static passive batteries, where we can during times of high usage, we can pump water up into a higher reservoir, and when production drops and usage can't meet the need, then we open the gates and we let the water start to flow to the lower reservoir, and we produce power that way. And then when power production ramps up above use again, we switch it and we start pumping back up. And there's been similar ideas that use like concrete block towers and all kinds of stuff like this for passive batteries. Kinetic batteries is the right word
we have a couple of those in Pennsylvania where they're basically like big rotating magnets, and because they're magnetic, they have very low friction, so they can hold energy in rotational motion for a very long time. And so by doing that, you can produce electricity from these rotating magnets. You don't need chemical batteries, and that tends to always be where things break down, right? Like the fossil fuel trolls will always start saying, well, how are you going to get all these batteries? How are you going to get lithium and all? Like, we don't actually need it, or at least not near as much as what folks think of, right? Because there's so many other ways to store energy than chemical energy, and chemical energy is like probably actually one of the most inefficient ways to store energy. So there's technology that already exists, and just like everything else, so much research, money, and time has been put into fossil fuels, for example. We have the technology to do a lot of this stuff today. But if we really start to prioritize it, I have no reason to doubt that technology wouldn't get a lot better really fast.
Efficiency would definitely climb. This is a key area, I think, that is a very important part of the formula. And then another really, really important thing, right? We've been talking about public ownership versus paying corporations to do better. The interstate renewable energy system would socialize the fossil fuel industry and the utility sector. So that means, 51% buyouts of the stock in all the fossil fuel companies and of all the private utilities in order to bring them in, under public control. And, a really good example of this, I think, is, I think it's PG&E in California, though I may have gotten the name wrong. But we've seen them be the direct cause of, you know, wildfires and things as the climate crisis, because of their lack of maintenance. And that's something where, you know, it should be a really obvious solution to just pull, you know, clearly the private sector is not, you know, carrying its weight and delivering. And so it needs to be brought back under public control. And a lot of the cost of this would come from that socialization, so of, you know, taking over those companies.